Welcome to the Kevin Dunn Show, and we are so excited that you've taken time out to join us. As always, we have another special guest on the Kevin Dunn Show. We have Tulla White, who is a professional chef. We're going to be discussing whether or not you are a chef or you're just a professional cook. We're going to find out more how Tulla got involved into this business when we come back from the commercial break.
At Charter Bank, you get totally free checking with online statements. You betcha. Free mobile banking, free online banking, free online bill pay, free debit card, even a new account gift. Free. At Charter Bank, we're here to wow you. And totally free checking is just the beginning. Come see us or open online at charterbank.net. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Life in the country is a conscious choice. And with that choice comes hard work, attention to detail, and investing in the right tools to keep your home or farm at its best. So why choose anything but the very best zero turns on the market today? Exmark. Known for their durability, precision cut, and time-saving performance, Exmarks are the preferred brand of mowing equipment for the landscape professional and people like you who take pride in their lawn. For special pricing incentives, visit exmark.com or your local dealer.
Welcome back to the Kevin Dunn Show. We have Tulla White. How are you doing today, man?
Kip, thank you for having me.
Tulla is a professional chef, and this guy really can cook.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
I've had his food on several occasions. Great cook. Now, I feel that I can cook a little bit. I can grill a little bit. I do pretty well with the cooking. Can I call myself a chef?
Well, in the end, we're all just cooks.
Okay.
The term chef usually comes with more paperwork, more responsibility, and a few more headaches. But what it's all, when it comes down to it, basically, even us chefs, we're just cooks. That's what we are. So if you can cook good at home and you want to call yourself a chef, by all means, you've earned the right to do it.
So you own the right to do that?
That's right.
So basically, how do you become a chef?
Well, technically, paper-wise, you need schooling. To be an accredited chef, you have to go to school and you have to pass the ACF certification, which would be to be termed an accredited chef. My opinion, and this is just my opinion,
all right.
but even if you've been to school, if you're fresh out of school, you may have the qualifications to be called a chef, but you need some real in the trenches experience in a restaurant. You need, to work in a few different places. Even if you work at one place, you need to be there long enough to know what to do with dishes, all the way up to food preparation.
Wow.
If you don't know where the dishes go, then you certainly can't go and get the dishes to cook the meals that you need. So to really be termed a chef, you have to just know your way around the entire kitchen and restaurant process.
So now with the paperwork and everything, so who officially makes you a chef or call you a chef? Who?
It's funny that you asked that, because when I first started out, I was kind of scared to make the leap to calling myself a chef. I felt like, am I a cook? Am I a sous chef, which is the chef that's under like the chef that runs the kitchen? So for a long time, I just kind of avoided the whole situation. But once I opened up my own restaurant, and ultimately the buck stopped with me. I had to make all the decisions. If it was a good one, it was mine. If it was a bad one, it was mine. So to me, at that point in time in my life is when I became, quote unquote, the chef, of the restaurant. So
you say it's very important, and I never thought about this, and even though when I'm cooking sometimes, I need to know where everything is, but when I look at you guys, so that's a very important piece.
Absolutely.
Knowing. Never thought of that.
Yeah. Even I've had people that have come to work for me with more experience than I have, more years in the industry than I have. But it doesn't matter who you are. When you come to work for me, you have to spend a little bit of time in the dish pits, what we call it, because that's to me the only way to learn your way around the restaurant. Again, if you just hop right on the line and I tell you to make a recipe, and you don't know where the measuring tools are, where the cup measures or tablespoons, or you have to learn that first before you can even really start to cook or make any of the ingredients. So everybody starts in the dish pit. It may be a week, it may be 2 days, it may be a year, but everybody starts in the dish pit.
So is time of the essence when you're a chef? Because I'm just thinking about and not knowing where stuff is, that can cause people to wait longer, and that's something you don't want.
Time management is all the time. Time is bearing down on you. Everything is, maybe that's why it seems like the years go by so quick for me, because every day is a deadline. We've got to have this out by 10 in the morning, this by 11, this has to be ready by 12, this by 4 o'clock, this by 5. So, and if you don't have your, your ducks in a row or know where your ingredients are, or you don't have your prep together, then you are setting yourself up for failure from the get-go.
Wow, that's not good. Yeah. So what makes one a good chef? What are some other?
With this day and time, with so much access to recipes and the internet, anybody can cook really good recipes. I mean, you can, in the click of a cell phone, you can find 10 different ways to make one thing. But after working with ingredients and stuff for years and years, you start to feel it. You can sometimes even smell a recipe. You can smell something cooking, and you can say that's missing oregano, or it needs a little more something. But those things come with time and just really feeling the food and having a true passion for it. So
that's something you kind of have to be taught.
You're taught it to a certain point, and then it becomes ingrained in you. It becomes a part of you.
All right. Now, if we ask what's a good chef, we got to ask what's a bad chef. Now, what do you, in your opinion, what's a bad chef?
The only things to me that really make for a bad chef are not necessarily their cooking abilities. It's more so punctuality. How motivated are they, while they're at work. Those things all are equally as important, if not more important, than your ability to cook. Again, I could hand you a recipe and say, make this, and as long as the recipe's accurate, the food should turn out accurate.
Right.
But if you're supposed to be at work at 8 o'clock and you show up at 8:30, you take advantage of all your coworkers. So punctuality, dedication, and a good attitude. You're working in a kitchen, temperatures are hot. You know how it is. If it's hot outside and you get in an aggravated situation, you're more apt to, and that spreads through the restaurant like a cancer. So a chef has to be able to keep their cool and stay on point. What we do this for is the guest, and that's what we're here for. It doesn't matter who messed up or whose mistake it was. What does the guest need? And that's what our job is to get your food out to you without you ever knowing there was a problem. It's the duck on the water theory. Under the water, the legs can be going like this, but on top, what everybody sees, we just got to be gliding along.
So chef wears a lot of masks, huh?
Yes.
Now, I used to think when I went into a restaurant where food was prepared by a chef, and I thought this until I actually had a chance to go into the back of the kitchen. I thought the chef cooked everything.
Yep.
The head chef cooked everything.
You assumed that they do everything.
I assumed that they did everything.
It's not like that at all. And I'll tell you, I'm not trying to jump around, but I'll tell you a funny story.
You're good.
My grandmother owned a restaurant here. She owned a few restaurants during her lifetime, but one was called Mildred's. And she never even turned on the stove in the restaurant. Didn't even know how to turn on the stove. But she was there, and everybody assumed that Mildred cooked and did everything. It's just perception. But basically, if you're in a really, really small operation, when I first opened up, I cooked on the line. Now, I had to have sous chefs to help me because one person just can't do it all. But now I have, chefs under me, and they have certain jobs, certain shifts that they work, and certain responsibilities. One person makes bread and makes desserts. Another person comes in and preps. Another person works on one side of the line where he makes certain ingredients and puts certain things together. So when you go to a restaurant and when you get your plate, there may have actually been 3 or 4 people or even 5 people involved in putting the components together that are on your plate. One person probably did your salad. Another person will do your dessert. But with your entree, if you have, let's just say you have a steak with a baked potato and sauteed vegetables, one person grilled the steak, another person did the potato, and another person did the vegetables, most likely. So it's a lot of working parts that have to hit exactly spot on, or else one's, the steak can be overdone and the vegetables aren't ready. So a lot of working, moving parts in this industry, but that's what makes it fun. I love it. So.
Wow.
And that's just one dish. Think about when you have 50 guests and all 50 guests are waiting on their food at the same time. It's a lot of room for chaos, that's for sure.
I bet. And don't get on me for asking this question right here, but I notice when I go to restaurants where the foods are prepared, chef prepared, the portions are so small, and the food is so good, and the portions are so small. Why are the portions so small?
Well, it's a combination of a couple of things. One is ultimately the chef has an owner who is bearing down on him to make sure that he hits his profit margin, his food cost in line. The other thing is that, and I'm guilty of this, if you've eaten at my restaurant, my portions are, by standards, are larger than they're supposed to be. When you go to culinary school, you're taught, an appetizer's a certain size, your entree's a certain size, a certain ounces of protein to go on the plate. But the other thing with that too is that if you make the portions too big, then you're apt to lose dessert sales, and stuff like that. But I do agree with you. My wife and I, we love to go out to dinner. I love to go to Atlanta and other cities and eat. And the prices are always high, and you eat, and then when you leave, you have to go buy Krispy Kreme or somewhere because you're not full. So that's one of the reasons why we give a little bit bigger portions. When you come to my restaurant, I want you to leave feeling like that you've at least gotten your money's worth for sure.
And the dietitians are probably saying, well, you need to be there with those servings anyway.
Exactly. Well, and nutritionally speaking, there are standards of food prep. And the other thing is we do have a large, percentage of obesity in this country.
Right.
It's tough, and portion-wise, even in schools and stuff, they have scaled back, some on that. When I went to school, you could kind of tell them what you wanted. Now it's portioned out, exactly where it should be. So.
And I imagine you have to do that. And you just touched on it a few minutes ago about the cost of what you're having to pay.
Yes. If you've been to the grocery store lately, any of you out there, if you've noticed the increase in prices, even fast food related, I went through, I won't name a name, but I just went through one of the big fast food places the other day, and man, it was just me, and I didn't even order excessively, and I thought, wow, they sure have elevated prices, but it's because food cost just keeps, escalating, and sooner or later, kind of like the real estate market bubble that burst a few years ago along the coastline. There has to be, it will have to check itself. I don't know what's going to cause it, but I know that food costs can't continue to double and triple.
Exactly.
When I opened 13 years ago, literally everything I buy has at least gone up 2.5 times, if not 3 times. But my menu has only gone up $3 or $4.
Wow.
So if you look at it, that trend can only go on so long. Sooner or later, there has to be something that brings it back into reality,
And we'll be optimistic that that'll take place.
Hope not, yeah.
We're going to have to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to find out more about Tulla White and where did he receive his training from.
It's tax refund time, and America's Mattress in LaGrange knows where you spend the most time resting and relaxing. Every mattress they sell is a first quality Serta America's mattress. They have mattresses ranging from $99 to $8,000, so they have one to fit any budget. Their huge inventory includes the I-Series, the Perfect Sleeper, and the I-Comfort. In the market for an adjustable bed, America's Mattress has them in stock. Use your tax refund to purchase the most important piece of furniture in your home. A good night's sleep is waiting on you at America's Mattress.
Maximum Tax Professionals in West Point has an expert staff that will meet all your tax preparation needs. Maximum Tax Professionals would love to prepare your taxes. Their ultimate goal is to maximize your return with you receiving your refund usually within 7 days. They offer free estimates, W-2 Express, notary services, and all military, self-employed, and walk-ins are welcome. You can even earn cash on referrals. And don't forget to ask them about Audit Plus Protection. If you would like your return maximized, visit Maximum Tax Professionals in West Point. Welcome back to the Kevin Dunn Show, where we are talking with Tulla White of Tulla White's Catering, and you actually own a restaurant called Venucci's, right?
Venucci? Yes, sir.
Venucci's.
Venucci downtown on Main Street.
I don't know why I want to say Venucci's, but anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
So much valuable information you're sharing with us. Tell us about your training that you received in preparation of becoming a chef.
Yes, sir. Schooling-wise, I actually attended West Georgia Technical College and received my Culinary Arts diploma under a gentleman by the name of Chef Henry Menard. I got really lucky. The program, he came on board when I had first started, and he just has a wealth and extensive background in the culinary arts and different places he's worked. So I feel very fortunate that I got to work under him or got to train under him.
That was cool.
Also, just from working standpoint, I worked at a place called Hogan's Heroes for 10 years from when I was 14, which don't hold that against me. I know that's a little bit below the legal limit.
Okay, I got you. I remember.
They let me come in and start washing dishes at 14. And worked there from 14 to 24. And shortly after I graduated culinary school, I was 24. I opened the Basil Leaf, which was my first restaurant. And of all times in the last 100 years to pick to open a restaurant, 9/11 was my opening day, if you can imagine that. So I just figured I had nowhere to go but up. So, but
wow.
That's my training background, I guess.
Training background. You had 3 restaurants at one time.
Actually, altogether, I had 5.
Five.
I had the Basil Leaf. I had Tulla's Bayou Bar and Grill. I had Venucci, which I still have.
Right.
I had 641 at the Marina, and then I had the Lazy Peach, which I actually sold the Lazy Peach. The bar business was not for me.
I got you.
Anyway, and then around 2008, I started kind of scaling down. Everybody knows the economy took a little bit of a downturn, and the first thing you cut out, if you can't afford your house payment, is going out to eat. So, I got caught up in that as well, but I kept Venucci. I've got really good, rent there, and I have upstairs and down.
Right. Great place.
Yeah, it allowed me to keep my catering business, and we just kind of took Venucci's menu and added some of the other restaurants' items into it, and it has been a blessing. I tell you what,
great.
One restaurant, one catering business, that's enough for me right now.
And you probably went from 4 headaches to having just a couple of headaches.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
What are your top 3, and I know you have many, many dishes, if you could choose your top 3 signature dishes?
Yeah. My favorite, and some are on the menu at the restaurant, some are not, but my 3 favorite things that I love to cook the most. One is called zuppa de pêche.
Oh, yes.
It's half of a Maine lobster.
I've had
shrimp
that.
and scallops and mussels and clams and calamari. Ossobuco. I do this from time to time. I have a call list when I do it at the restaurant. It's braised veal shanks. We do them with a tomato wine vegetable sauce over saffron rice with like a the vegetable sauce is kind of like the Italian version of a pot roast. And then Chilean sea bass. I did check on the Chilean sea bass to make sure. I have heard it's on the endangered list, but very rarely do I do it. But when I called the seafood company, they told me that was not correct. So every now and then I'll get in a small portion of it. But I usually do it Asian style, a little bit of ginger soy. But those are my 3 favorite things to cook. So.
And those are 3 great ones.
I believe one of your favorite things is ceviche, which
oh yes, yes.
I did. I was out of the country recently, and I did ceviche for some people out of the country, and they loved it. So.
Yes, and I love it too as well. Yeah. why is cooking called a culinary art?
Well, they say baking is science and cooking is art, and my interpretation of that, you can't if you have a recipe to bake a cake and you just start throwing things in it, you don't know what you're going to wind up with. The cake either won't rise or it won't taste good. But cooking allows for creative influences. You can just go to your refrigerator at home and look and see what ingredients you have. And make something edible out of it, which is kind of the same as painting. You have your paints and your brush, and you take those ingredients and make something creative. You can certainly do the same thing with food. Not so much with baking, but with cooking.
With cooking, okay.
So cooking is art.
Is art, all right. Now, with your experience, do you still use measuring devices for your ingredients, or do you just know how much to put in what you're cooking?
My employees, if you're watching this, you better still use the measuring utensils. At home, when I'm cooking for family and friends, I'm a dump cook. I do a pinch of this, a pinch of that. You can't run a restaurant like that. You'll want somebody else's pinch is different than my pinch.
Right.
So at the restaurant, we use measuring devices for about 80% or 85% of our cooking. We do some a la minute cooking, which means to the minute. There's certain dishes that we make at the restaurant that are made right then, and those are a pinch of this and a pinch of that. But the staff has been trained by me. They have to cook it for me several times before I allow them to cook it for the guests. So any of the restaurant owner that's watching this is probably cringing because it does lend itself for some potential problems, but it's just the way we've always done it.
Okay. How do you know when your food is ready? How do you know when it's seasoned? Do you taste it, or is it by smell, or depends on what you're cooking?
When you're following the recipe, by following the recipe and following your cooking times and temperatures. When I'm at home cooking, I take a spoon and taste it like everybody else. And, I'm like, that needs a little bit more garlic or a little bit more this or that. So even if you find a good recipe, online, or if you're watching a cooking show and you find a good recipe, you make it at home, I always taste them. I don't just take the word for it because they tend to back off on the seasonings and stuff. I usually like stuff a little more heavily seasoned. So I would definitely taste test it before you take it out of the pot. And be careful with your salt. Once you put it in there, it's in there.
It's in there.
They say you can take it out with a potato. I've tried it. Doesn't seem to work. So be careful with the salt. You can always add more to it, but once it's in there, it's there.
Wow. Wow. So you're a businessman and you're a chef.
Yes, sir.
Which one came first?
Chef came first. Definitely. And it's a good point here. Just because you can cook or love to cook does not make you a good business manager or operations runner. I have learned this the hard way. I stumbled for many years. I did not want to do the behind the scenes. I did not want to be the one in there crunching the numbers and on the computer and doing payroll, and I avoided it literally for 10 years. I either hired somebody to do it, and so forth. But now I do all of the behind the scenes stuff. But what it does is it's kind of a double-edged sword. If you're going to do the business end of it, it cuts into your creative time on the cooking side.
Right.
If you're going to be all hands-on chef, then it cuts into your book work and behind the scenes time. It's very hard to do both yourself. If you're married or if you have a partner that's in there with you, one of you has to take on one of the role and the other has to do the other. If not, you'll have to hire some help. It's very hard to do both.
I used to wonder when I used to see all those restaurants open. I'm like, how is this guy doing this?
A lot of
he
irons
probably
and
has
a
some
fire.
good help, but I know you're doing most of the work.
Yes, sir.
Because you're actually on the business. As far as how food looks, is that a big deal? Well, I know it's a big deal, but
yeah, people eat. They say they eat 50% with their eyes. So you can take a shoebox, and cake decorators do this all the time, and make it look awesome. But if you cut into that shoebox, it's still a shoebox.
It's still a shoebox.
So, but as far as the eyesight, the dishes have to look appealing. There's little tricks that we use in the culinary industry to try to, we try to put things in threes.
Okay.
If you're grouping stuff together, just little stuff like that. Try to keep the edges of your plates clean and stuff. But absolutely, the first thing that's going to draw them to it is the way it looks, the presentation of it. But then you got to back it up. If it looks good and tastes bad, you lost it. It's got to look good and taste good.
Now, should every chef have aspirations to own his own restaurant?
Not necessarily. And I've juggled this in my head. Is it better to be a chef that you can have the fun of the business of coming up with awesome ideas and new menus all the time, and when you leave the restaurant, you go home. It doesn't come home with you. You come back to work the next day and you get to be creative again. The downside to owning it is that you're never free from it. At 3 o'clock in the morning, if a window gets broken out, you
gotta do it.
You have to go to the restaurant and see what's going on. If there's a plumbing problem, a bathroom problem, a computer problem, all of those are your problems when you're the owner. When you're the chef, you may have to solve some of those for the owner, but ultimately, whether or not the rent's paid and the bills are paid, all of that falls on the owner. So I don't know. That's a tough one. I love it, and it has been such a blessing for me and my family to own a restaurant. I would not change it for anything in the world. But everybody can't be an owner because you have to have staff to work for you.
Exactly.
So, but I will say one more thing about that. If you are going to, or you plan on owning a restaurant, go work for somebody, 2 or 3 or 4 different people. Work there a year, then move on to the next place. Work there a year, learn all you can. Because as soon as you say, I do, and marry that restaurant, it is yours. And that's... That time it's yours, and you can't just pull up shop and move on.
Wow. So. I think we have time for one more question here. With the trying times and the economy, for you to have sustained and maintain to stay in the restaurant business as long as you have, what do you contribute your success to?
Well, I really had to reinvent myself. There were certain platforms of business, catering wise, and even restaurant wise. There were certain price structures that I just didn't go after. If somebody called me up and said, I've got X amount of budget and it was below what I did, I would send them to another caterer. And then all of a sudden, when things got tough, I had to say, wait a minute, I better rethink this. So we changed our business model and went after some business opportunities that I never pursued prior to really 2010. And then we kind of started growing that. Breakfast is another area. We're starting to do a lot of breakfast. At first, recently, I didn't want to do that, but I got asked to do it, and we did it, and it's profitable. And I said, wow, we can grow this. So we're currently growing that end of the business. So
that's great, man.
Keep changing.
Keep changing. You got to keep changing. So. Well, Mr. Tulla White, professional chef Tulla White, thank you so much.
Kevin, thank you.
For being a guest on the Kevin Dunn Show.
Thank you all for watching. We appreciate it.
All right. And remember, if there's a topic that you would like to see discussed on the Kevin Dunn Show, email us at thekevindunnshow@wjcntv.com. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.